Okay.
We have to do unanimous votes, though.
They'll be unanimous. Ancient Greek.
This meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals is hereby called to order. This board was established pursuant to Section 519.13 of the Ohio Revised Code by the Anderson Township trustees to provide administrative relief to any person or entity adversely affected by the Anderson Township zoning resolution. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Here. Sheezel. Wake me up.
Mr. Halpin. Present. Mr. Sion.
Here. Thank you for coming to this meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals. Please be aware that this meeting is audio and videotaped and may be carried live on television. First, I'll outline our procedures. A summary of the appeal is presented by the staff, then the appellant will present its case. The board members may then ask questions of the appellant. After that, all persons supporting the appeal will be permitted to testify one at a time after being recognized by the chairman. When those persons supporting the appeal are finished, those opposed to the appeal will then be permitted to testify and or ask questions of the board after being recognized by the chairman. All persons wishing to testify, whether for or against an appeal, may only do so after being sworn in. When testifying, each person must come forward to the podium after being recognized, speak into the microphone, and state their name, address, and any affiliation to the case. All persons testifying will be limited to 4 minutes unless a board member requests additional time. All testimony is given to the board only. No comments or questions are to be directed to the appellant or anyone else in the audience. The board will only hear new, non-repetitive evidence or questions. Should someone wish to show support of previous testimony, they may do so by following the testimony procedures and stating their support of previous testimony. Now, all persons who may give testimony this evening, please stand. Raise your right hand and swear or affirm. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Thank you. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
We do have one change. We are going to switch items number 5 and 6 on the agenda. Number 6 is a discussion of a previous case, so we'll do that before we do deliberation for the cases tonight.
Thank you. And with that, can we get a approval to
Move
a motion?
approve.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Haber.
Aye.
Mr. Halpin. Aye. Mr. Sion.
Aye. And were there any edits to the minutes from April 4th, 2019?
Mr. Chair, I did submit some edits that I think you have a copy in front of you. And I went back and forth with staff and believe we came up with changes that were acceptable and addressed my concerns. So I don't know if we need to go into it in depth, but however, I move that we approve the minutes of our April 4th meeting.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Haber.
Aye.
Mr. Halpin. Aye. Mr. Sion.
Aye. With that, we'll move on to consideration of case number 7-2019 BZA. Will the staff please read the report?
Yes. So our first case tonight is case 7, 2019 BZA. The applicant is Todd Hartman, who is the principal of Ayer Elementary School, along with Heather Hole, the assistant principal. The location is 8471 Forest Road. The zoning is A2, and the request is a variance request for to allow a freestanding sign with a variable message board that exceeds 50% of the total sign. So a little bit of history about this property. In 1973, Ayer Elementary was constructed. In 1993, a zoning certificate was issued for interior renovations and additions. In 2004, a zoning certificate was issued for the 8x4 freestanding sign, which is in question tonight. So that sign's been there since 2004. And then in 2015, a zoning certificate was issued for additions for a vestibule, offices, pre-K classrooms, along with a kickball field and a 4-foot-high chain link fence. And that was approved with case 12, 2015 BZA, since it was a conditional use. So this is an overview of the property. This is Ayer Elementary, and we have Forest Road out here, and Pamela Drive right here. The sign in question is in this area. This is an aerial map of the area, so again, the sign is right here. You can see there's a couple residences right around where the sign is. This is a topography map of the site, so it varies in topography. And so these are site pictures that we took earlier this week. This is the sign in question. Again, it's an 8x4 freestanding sign, and it's 32 square feet. Here is a view of the sign from across the driveway on the sidewalk along Forest Road. This is from across the street looking at the sign from one of the neighboring properties. This is across Forest Road. This is a view of the sign looking across Forest Road at that residence right across the street. So staff findings. Staff finds that the variance could be substantial. The requested 22.6 square foot variable message sign is 70.63% of the proposed 32 square foot sign, while only 50% is permitted. The sign is also clearly visible from Forest Road, located approximately 24 feet from the road and 13 feet from the right-of-way. The character of the neighborhood could substantially be altered, and adjoining properties could suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. The proposed sign is located in a residence district in close proximity to several residences. The closest residence to the sign is approximately 113 feet away, and the house is directly across the street, is approximately 132 just feet away. The property owner's predicament can be feasibly obviated through some method other than a variance. They are permitted to have a 16 square feet of variable message sign for the 32 total square footage of the sign, and they are proposing 22.6 square feet. Additionally, the maximum size for a freestanding sign on this particular property is 40 square feet with a variable message board of 20 square feet. That would be the maximum allowable. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, and the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement could be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. The variable message board is 70.63% of the proposed 32 square foot sign and is located approximately, or in close proximity to several residences, with the closest being about 113 feet away from the proposed sign. So these are our standards to be considered, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Can you give us some insight into the code as to the 50% allotment of any sign that is allowed to be digital messaging, movable graphics? What is the reason behind that?
I think it's primarily to not to distract drivers as part of it. I know that any message that's shown on the board has to be stagnant and for 30 seconds, and then it can move to the next message. So that's part of it. And then other than that, it's due to the brightness of the light, I believe, that's part of it. So those are just a few of those reasons.
Okay. Because I'm seeing here that they could tear the sign down and put a 40 square foot sign up, of which they could have 20 square feet, but instead they're looking at a smaller sign, and so I'm thinking to myself, well, there's only, they could do it 20 square foot if they wanted to build a bigger sign, but we're keeping the size down small, and with a 20 square foot allotment, then we're not looking at a 70%, we're looking at maybe a 10% or something like that. So I'm trying to get my head around that, saying, is this really a better option for the neighborhood because it's a smaller sign, even though they could build something bigger and take more? So I'm trying to get my head around what is the purpose behind a 50% allotment?
Again, like I said, I think it's not to distract drivers, and then also It's just due to the brightness of the sign that's over 50%. That's really. the
So are you
requirement.
saying there's something to do with the background of the sign that says that a smaller imaging portion of it would mean less distraction?
Correct.
Okay. Can you pull up go back to some pictures real quick here?
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna, and one just right up, full on, like that picture right there. I mean, it's kind of like there's nothing back behind it, there's just foliage and whatnot, so, okay, I'm good, thank you.
And real quick, I'm just realizing, for some reason, the site plan is not in this PowerPoint, but it is in front of all of you tonight.
Right,
So,
okay, thank you.
Mr. Halpin, did you have any questions on staff? With that, will the appellant or the appellant's representative please come to the podium, speak into the microphone, state your name, address, and any affiliation, and present your appeal?
My name is Becky Fugate. My address is 1001 Nottingham Drive. I am the president of the Air Elementary PTA, and so Todd Hartman is the principal. He is the applicant here, but he could not be here tonight, so he asked me to come. I just wanted to give a really brief background on the sign. And years ago, when my oldest child started school there were some special needs students at Anderson High School that would come monthly or more frequently if needed to replace the sign letters to new messages. And a couple years ago, it became a safety concern, and the district stopped that. And at that point, we had parents doing it. So that's been the last 2 years. And it became apparent pretty quickly that it was a safety concern for adults as well. It's a 2+ person job, and somebody has to hold it. And so we started looking at different options to replace the sign, and we found a company, Golden Rule Signs, and we voted as a PTA to approve this, to pay for it. And so as working with Golden Rule Signs, they had provided the insight that this size message center was appropriate by industry standards for the location as in proximity to the road and the speed limit, and this is what they recommended. And in looking at the sign, and you can see it up there too, but we currently have where it's approximately 30% the Air Elementary, and then 70% where you could read, where we can put messaging. And so we're essentially just looking to replace what we have here, and we would be keeping the monument the same, and just this portion would be replaced with the digital. And you know, obviously we're an elementary school, we're really invested in the community, and we want to support the community. And I guess we feel that by decreasing this to only 50%, that we would be downsizing in what we're able to message and put out to parents and students and the community in general. So we think that the sign has the ability to be a significant asset to the community, that we're able to put public safety messages out there, such as, you know, Amber Alerts, things like that. Also, we can control the dimmability, and so it would automatically dim on cloudy days, and we would turn the sign off at night, so it would not be an impact at night.
Do we have signs like this in other parts of the school district?
Anderson High School has one, I know for sure. I'm not sure about other ones. Nagel might, I'm not sure.
I'm on now.
What time would you propose turning it off at night?
John, you just have to.
We're open to that. We could adjust it seasonally as well. So in the winter when it's darker, we could turn it off earlier than in the summer. So I don't think that we have a set time right now, but we would be open to hearing feedback from neighbors or whatnot to make sure that it's a positive for everybody involved.
Would you envision using it during the summer as well?
I think so. I mean, just for a basic message like have a good summer, or, you know, registration, see here, school starts this day, something like that.
Thank you.
Is that it?
That's it for me.
Any, Mr.
No,
Abel?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this appeal?
I can't hear. Are you speaking to me?
Are you speaking in favor of the appeal, sir?
I can't hear you.
Are you speaking in favor of the appeal or against the appeal? Okay. I guess nobody else in favor of the appeal. Please, sir, will you take the this podium over there?
First thing, I want to apologize. My hearing's terrible. I live adjacent to their property, but I'm on 8 Mile.
Can you state your name, sir, and your
Yeah,
address?
it's William A. Lickenhouse. You want my address?
Please.
847 8 Mile Road.
Thank you.
I don't understand, we have these zoning laws. When somebody has a bad idea, they're supposed to save the general public from it. That screen behind you, I was counting those squares, that thing's about 8 foot by 10. This thing here is about 8 foot by 7. How many of you guys live in the township?
Well, we all do.
How many of you guys would want a screen like that across from your property or in your neighborhood? It's a residential neighborhood. I don't see any reason to put a neon sign in there. If you want a neon sign, it needs to be up on Beachmont or in Las Vegas. I go by that every day. I walk and I ride a bike for exercise. That sign doesn't get changed probably once a month. I believe that sign with the lettering on it's been there since school let out. They don't utilize the sign they got. I don't know what the cost of that sign, the new one, would be, but I would say it's going to be many thousands of dollars. I've lived in the township since 1970, and I always vote for the school issues. I want the kids in the neighborhood to have a chance to compete in high school and college, and I want them to get a good education. I don't see that money that comes from our taxes should be used for a neon sign in a residential area. I just, right there, I don't see no justification. Not to mention, I would like to see that tax money used to enhance those kids' education, or in today's world, to make them schools more secure, not for a neon sign in a residential area. If they insist on putting that thing up there, it should be put all the way back by the school building, not by the street. My wife taught school for 34 years, Guardian Angel. They have a system, and I doubt if there's one family that's got kids in that school that doesn't have a smartphone or a computer. And whenever they wanted to relay a message, it would show up on that computer and that smartphone. And it goes to the people that are concerned with the business of the school. In today's world, I don't know if it's a good idea to put your business on a neon sign in front of the schools. Everybody, excuse me, everybody thinks that nothing happens in Anderson, but that's where stuff happens. And I don't know if putting a neon sign out there to advertise your business, how many of you guys, when you go on vacation, put it on Facebook so everybody knows you're on vacation? I would say probably none of you. I just don't see it as a good idea. If you start this, then does every park, every church, and every school need a neon sign? I don't want them on my street. I don't think you guys would want to look at them if you come out your front door looking at a sign similar to that. That sign's a little bigger. There's no way that it's not going to reduce the property value of somebody's house to some extent. What happens is the guy across the street's trying to sell his house, and they come over and they look at that sign, and they say, we don't want that. I realize there's a lot of considerations with something like this, but I don't see anything wrong with that sign they've got, and they don't utilize it, and it's not an eyesore. And honestly, I think if you guys would tell the truth, you don't want a sign like that across from your property. That's about all I got to say. I walked by there, you know, and I thought, well, that's ridiculous. The expense, it's a residential area. Do we have any neon signs in Anderson that are in residential areas that are that size? I would say we don't. And I'd
Well,
say we don't start it.
If there's another one located at a school, then schools are located in residential
Well,
sections. So
off
ye-
the top of my head,
So to answer your question, sir, I think there is.
off the top of my head, the schools that I drive by, none of them have neon signs. To me, it's just a matter of somebody coming out of that office and walking out there and putting the lettering up. And if they don't want to do that, they ought to get a system where they can communicate with all the parents via computer, via smartphone, which is how the world works today. And I don't see any enhancement or reason to have a neon sign in a residential area. If you guys can tell me why they would do that, I'd like to hear it.
I think that would be a question for the applicant.
Well, you know, I mean, you had it on the board up there, I read it. They knew what the restrictions were when they built that school there. And the zoning laws, when somebody's got a bad idea, that you guys are supposed to just let them say, look, it doesn't fit, it's against the zoning, and it's not gonna enhance anybody, and it's gonna deprive certain people.
That's why they're here tonight, are
I
applying for the
understand.
variance,
I
yeah.
know you don't have a crowd of people here, but I also know that people are working on Thursday and they're getting off work and they're coming home and you know, I just thought I'd come up and express my opinion. I'm not here, I'm all for the schools and whatever they should spend on that sign, it ought to be spent and enhance those kids' education, not to advance some administrator's agenda. You know, that's just my opinion, you know, you guys, you gotta do what's best for everybody, but I don't see how violating the zoning rule in this instance is gonna benefit anybody. I'm sure that administrator would rather sit, sit at his desk and change that sign on the computer than walk out and change them letters. But to me, that money should be spent to the kids' benefits, not to the administrator, the guy, the principal that wants a neon sign and somebody else. If you ask him, how about we put that sign in your front yard? I know what he's gonna say. I appreciate you guys listening to me. That's about all I gotta say. I always hope when you get public officials that they make reasonable decisions that's the best for everybody. You know, and I'm sure you guys try to do that. And whenever you have a conflict, somebody's not gonna be happy about it, but I just don't see any need to start putting neon signs in residential areas. I really don't. If you guys turn around and look at that sign, I mean, would you want that across the street from your house? That's a little bit bigger than what they're gonna put up there, but I just don't see. I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Board have any questions for the?
As far as
Sir?
guardian angels is concerned,
Sir, do you mind coming up to the podium? We have a question for you. Can you mind going back to the podium? One of the board members wants to ask you a question.
I have a question for you. Am I working?
Yep.
Okay. Does guardian angels, what kind of signage does guardian angels have?
Similar to that. Same with McNick across the street.
Don't they have an electronic sign?
They do not.
I'm not sure of that.
That's City of Cincinnati
Yeah,
anyway.
neither one of those are in Anderson.
They're
Yeah.
actually not in the township. They're in
Right,
the
they're in
city.
city, yeah.
The city operates different. You guys are in a much better facility and area.
Yeah.
I mean, I specifically moved to Anderson to get out of the city. You know, I mean, that's different, but there's no neon sign.
Yeah. Well, I went to Cardinal Pacelli anyway.
And the other, well, that's fine.
We don't hold that against you.
Yeah, the whole again.
Sir, can you please?
They're on Beachmont Avenue.
Yeah, it's City of,
They're not in a
residential area, right.
you know, and I don't know how far off you get before, if you put a neon sign on Beachmont, one more wouldn't matter.
And then you live on 8 Mile?
I'm sorry,
You live on 8 Mile?
I do,
Okay.
but it's just the idea, I mean, we've got good schools, we got good parks,
Thank you.
I appreciate you listening to me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Does the appellant wish to rebut any of the testimony? Please step forward.
I just want to point out that it's not taxpayer dollar that's paying for the sign. They are PTA funds that would be paying it, so it's not taxpayer dollars that would be supporting that sign. Those are funded through donations to the PTA. Also, it was voted on by the PTA, so we all live in that community, and we all supported purchasing this sign.
And the person across the street from the school have they said anything to you regarding the
No,
change?
we have not heard. I walked up this morning and I took pictures, the same ones that you had up there. And there are 3 houses that are
Across the street?
across the street where the sign would be visible. And we have not heard from any of those individuals.
But they do know about it then?
I would
You know.
assume
Yeah,
that, I mean, with
yeah.
the sign's
We-
been posted out there.
Yes, we send notification to property owners within 200 feet of this property, so
Okay.
yes, they receive
They receive
notification.
written notification?
Yes,
Okay.
and there was also a sign posted on the property that gave information that there was going to be a zoning hearing.
Okay. Thank you.
No further questions on the case?
Nope.
No.
Seeing none, do we have a motion to close the public hearing on this?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin,
Aye.
Mr. Scion.
Aye. And with that, we'll move to the consideration of case 8-2019 BZA. Would staff please read the report?
Yes. So our second case tonight is case number 8, 2000.
Mr. Powersher, there's probably a matter of procedure that the appellant is interested in what's going to happen here, so that even though we're moving on to the next case, she wants to probably know how we're going to proceed here tonight. I'm making an assumption here. So can we kind of tell her what's going to happen here so she
Yes.
knows?
So we will, I'm going to give the staff report for our second case tonight, and then we will give testimony. Everyone for that case can do that. And then after that time, the board will deliberate on whether or not to grant the variance, and they'll take a straw vote. At that point, after they get their straw vote, we will journalize and make the ultimate decision at the end of the meeting.
So that will be announced tonight?
Yes.
That way, we keep the public portion of our meeting open, and then we'll close it, and then everything works amongst ourselves, and there's no more public testimony. That's why we go through these 2 cases up front. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, so our second case tonight is case number 8, 2019 BZA. The applicant is Josh Robinson of Fresh Perspective on behalf of Robert and Gina Klein, who are the property owners of 2607 Old Forge Lane. The property is zoned A residence, and the request is to allow a 6-foot-high privacy fence in the side yard where it's only permitted in the rear yard per Article 5.2A9 of the Anderson Township zoning resolution. The history on this case, the house was built in 1972, and the current owner purchased the property in April of 2019. A zoning certificate was issued for a 4-foot-high split rail fence in the front yard on June 26th of 2019, and that fence has since been installed. So this is a property map of the site. As you can see, it's a corner lot on Old Forge and Little Dry Run, and that creates a situation where they have, this is their front yard. They kind of have 2 front yards on both of those frontages, and the side yard is in this area over here, with the rear yard being in this area. This is an aerial view of the property, and I mentioned the fence that has been installed. Is about on this property line in the front, and that's included in the pictures. This is a topography map. So this is a view of the house from the street from Old Forge. This is the fence that was recently installed that we issued the zoning certificate for. It's a 4-foot-high split rail fence, which is permitted in the front yard. Another view of that fence from the other street. And then this is looking back towards where the 6-foot privacy fence would be. Right where this 4-foot fence terminates, it would continue on the property line and then go further back. This is the patio that the applicant is wanting to enclose with the 6-foot high privacy fence. And as you can see, there is, in the neighboring property, there's a driveway and parking pad that's about 4 feet from where the fence is being proposed. So there's another view of that patio area. And then further back, again, the fence will be right about in this location. So staff findings, staff is of the opinion that the variance would not be substantial because of the proximity of the side yard to the neighboring driveway. The property is a corner lot, and due to the orientation of the house on the lot, the portion of the side yard that is proposed to be enclosed by the 6-foot privacy fence is used as a patio in the rear of the house. The essential character of the neighborhood would not be altered, and adjoining properties would not suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance. The nearest house to the west is located 29 feet away from the driveway, away with a driveway located approximately 4 feet from the proposed fence. The fence will be made of cedar material, 100% enclosed, and is located approximately 80 feet from Little Dry Run Road. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. The owner's predicament can be feasibly obviated through some method other than a variance. 75% open 4-foot high fence would be permitted in that location. Staff is of the opinion that the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed by granting the variance based on the orientation of the house on the corner lot and the fact that the portion of the side yard that is proposed to be enclosed is used as a patio in the rear of the house. Additionally, the patio in the rear of the house is located approximately 4 feet from the neighboring driveway and parking pad. So, again, these are our standards to be considered. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
None.
This was included in our packet. Can you describe what this is?
I believe that is an example of the type of fencing that will be used. That is not the property in
Right.
question.
Okay, we'll ask the appellant.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions of staff? Will the appellant or the appellant's representative please come to the podium, speak into the microphone, state your name, address, and any affiliation, and present your appeal?
Robbie Klein, 2607 Old Forge, property owner. Feels good to say that. Basically, we walk out onto our patio and we look right into our neighbor's front door. I actually have a letter from them stating that they support us putting this fence up because they walk out their front door and they look right in our back door. So, I mean, unless you guys have any questions, I think we're putting this 80-plus feet off of Little Dry Run, and the two parties involved, obviously we want the fence and our neighbors are supportive of that. So,
Is there any regulation regarding finish sides of fences?
We do not have a regulation for that.
Okay.
I think the finished side would be facing them, correct? Facing our neighbors?
Yeah.
The
That's usually the way it should.
good neighbor
Sure,
fence.
but it's not
the
regulated.
Same on both sides.
Can you state your name, address, please?
I'm Josh Robinson of Fresh Perspective. I'll be the installer. The fence will look the same on both sides. Yeah, both sides will both have the nice side.
Okay.
Did you swear in, sir?
Yes, I did.
Earlier, yes.
Thank you. I just did not remember. Thank you.
My beautiful wife was the only one that didn't.
So you're in agreement with putting that's why I'm looking at this picture right here,
It doesn't.
is that this is the type of fence made of cedar that you're looking for, and the finished side is going to be towards the neighbor's side.
It'll look exactly the same on both sides.
Oh, it will?
You won't have the 2x4s showing like
Well,
that.
there'll be 2x4s on one side and trim on the other side that'll mirror it. So it'll look, the boards will be sandwiched between the posts and then the pickets will be raised.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
evenly on both sides.
Okay.
Neither side will technically get the frame. So
Okay.
it'll be hidden from both sides.
Okay.
Thank you.
There won't be any climbing mechanisms or anything to hop over or anything like that.
Okay.
Both sides are going to appear the same. Thank you.
No question.
No questions.
Who do I give this letter to?
We can take that. Unfortunately, we won't be able to accept that as testimony from your neighbor, but we can take it in as a supporting document.
Yeah.
Any further questions of the appellant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this appeal? Seeing none, does anyone wish to speak in opposition of this appeal? Seeing none, is the board ready to close the public hearing on this case?
Move we close.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin,
Aye.
Mr. Sion.
Aye. And as with before, we'll decide on this case after we've got one more case to hear in the public hearing, and then we'll go through and decide the other two cases. Would the staff please present the case 11-2018 BZA?
Yeah, so the last item we have on the agenda is case 11, 2018 BZA. This was heard and approved on September 6th in 2018. The applicant was unable to construct their addition to the accessory structure in the front yard in the time frame provided by the board. So this is a discussion item, as I mentioned, for you to confirm that you're okay with the project moving forward, as the site plan will not change at all. If you feel that it's appropriate, staff suggests you make a motion to extend the timing for the variance request for construction to start within 1 year and be completed within 2 of this decision tonight.
From tonight.
Yes.
Based on what they've got written in this letter, though, that they're saying they're not gonna be able to start till the spring of 2020, so I guess that's within a year of
Yeah.
today.
And if the board feels appropriate, you can extend it further if you'd like.
I move that we go ahead and extend it for the requested time frame that they've asked for.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin,
Aye.
Mr. Sion.
Aye. With that, is the board ready to close the public hearings on all cases?
So moved.
Second.
We have a second and, sorry, a motion and a second. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin,
Aye.
Mr. Sion.
Aye. That will go into board-only hearing for case number 7-2019 BZA. Someone wish to start us off with regards to the sign at Ayers Elementary School?
My thought is that the neighbors that would be most affected by this signage are not objecting. And so my feeling is that, and I've seen these signs around, so to me, yeah, no, I don't want it in front of my front window, but I don't see it in front of anybody's front window. So long and short is, I'm in favor of it, and the neighbors don't seem to have a problem with it except passers. So, that's my thought.
I am in favor of granting the variance, and for a number of reasons. And primarily was my questions before is that they could be coming to this, they could be coming to the zoning office with a 40-foot sign with a 40 square foot sign with a 20 square foot variable messaging board, and we wouldn't even be here.
Correct.
So even though, and that's why I'm trying to understand what that intent of the zoning code is. So from my point of view, I'm thinking then they're more of a 10%, 11% increase from 20 to 20, was it 22.6? Yeah. 10% variance, which I don't think is that much. And I think, and I was glad when Mr. Bowers was talking about the sign being limited to 50% on a larger sign in order to reduce background clutter, but in this case, we've got a lot of foliage behind it, so I think that's going to take care of it. The monument remains the same, and I think, given the testimony of the appellant, that with people who are moving past the sign, and yes, there are going to be vehicles going past the sign, that the size is appropriate for the situation. In talking about the objection that we had from the person on 8 Mile, I want to reiterate what Mr. Halpin said, is that none of the people who I think are going to be more affected by the sign are not here tonight in objecting. And I believe the objection was more of not having a variable message sign, where I believe here, we're only talking about the size of it. And that's only what the board is here in order to grant a variance is based on the size of it. It's funded by the PTA. Tax dollars aren't being spent for it, so I am in favor of those reasons to grant the variance.
I would concur along those lines. I mean, the primary one is that, you know, as Mr. Haber stated, that they don't even need our permission if they want to go, you know, put in a 40-square-foot sign. We got a 20-square-foot. It's an automatic. We wouldn't hear this. You know, in this case, it's a little better situation. They're using existing monuments, existing signboards there, and just adding I should note too, it's an LED sign, not a neon sign, which neon might convey a little different, different image, and it might be a little more annoying. I mean, LEDs are a little different too, and they do have neon. Generally, it's on or off. With LEDs, I know, and they had mentioned too that they could adjust the brightness of it, which is, they were stating that, especially in poor inclement weather, you can reduce the brightness of it too, which is an added benefit of LEDs. But for that reason, and the reasons Mr. Haber and Halpin stated, I'm in concurrence.
The only issue that I think is outstanding is time. And Mr. Chair, you asked that question before, and I think that needs to be some kind of a condition that is placed on that. And I would be happy to defer that discussion to staff if staff feels comfortable in being able to come up with that. Otherwise, we're going to have to negotiate, so that you can spend the time with the appellant negotiating, or we're going to do that right now. Yeah, what time it gets turned off at night.
So go ahead.
So looking at there's a whole variable message portion of the zoning resolution. It doesn't state the time period in which it's supposed to be turned on and off. However, the maximum brightness levels shall not exceed a 12-foot candle measured from the nearest point of any public road. So it'll have to get dimmer the minute it hits,
Dusk or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
But this doesn't say a time that it has to go off at night or turn on
Okay.
in the morning.
I just wanted to mention that we do have the variable message section in our zoning resolution, and they are going to be meeting all of the requirements of that other than the 50% signage. So that was part of the staff report.
Okay. Then I'm going to take that off the table.
Okay.
Okay?
I have a question. 12-foot candle, is that in diameter? Is it height?
Diameter. Like, so,
12-foot candle, man. That's a big candle.
It's the brightness of 12
Right.
candles
Oh,
at a specific location.
okay.
But if they're going to comply with all other aspects, then we'll take that off the table.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? Somebody want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the request based on stipulations in the application, and that it be completed within let's start it within a year and complete it within 2.
Sir?
And,
Substantial conformance
well, I said,
with plans and.
yeah, based on the request.
There we go. He's
Plans
encapsulated
dated.
everything.
And the plans dated June 20th, 2019.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second, will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin,
Aye?
Mr. Scion.
Aye. And with that, this case is approved. We will later on go through a decision process journalizing where it's official. The documents will be ready tomorrow, day after, Monday.
Yes, yeah, Monday or Tuesday.
Thank you. And with that, we will move on to case 18-2019 BZA for the 6-foot-high privacy fence. Anybody wish to start us off on that?
Want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'm in favor also of granting this variance. Certainly citing staff findings, the location of the patio relative to the neighbor's driveway and parking pad. So I'm in favor.
I am too.
I will agree with the consensus. We have agreement. Can we get a motion?
Mr. Chair, regarding case 8-2019 BZA, I move that we approve the variance to build a 6-foot-high cedar privacy fence within the side yard, citing staff's findings. The drawings dated June 21st, 2019, to be started within a year and completed within 2.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second?
We have a motion and a second. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin,
Aye?
Mr. Scion.
Aye. With that, we go to our final case, extension for case 11-2018 BZA.
Did we?
We already did that.
We voted on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
We did it in
we,
the,
we did the straw vote on it. Do we need, well, I guess, just journalize and decide at the end.
There wasn't a public hearing, and we are not doing a new resolution for it, I believe, is how this works.
It'll be an amended resolution,
Correct.
yes. That's what we have here tonight, so.
Okay.
we're good?
I think we're good on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
And with regards to your fence, it's been unofficially approved. We'll go through a decision and journalization process, which documents will be ready for you on Monday. But with that, we'll go into temporary recess while staff prepares the documents.
Yep.
Thank you.
We can mail them if you'd like. Sounds like Josh will pick them up. Thank you.
So while we're in our temporary recess and Brad and PJ are working on the resolutions, I just wanted to take a minute and say that we have hired PJ full-time now that he's graduated from UC. He is a planner one in our office along with Brad and I. And so with that, we're kind of transitioning how we're doing committees and boards. So PJ and Brad will be taking over BZA, and I will be moving, kind of transitioning towards zoning commission. So I'll be helping them in the office, and I'll probably be here the next couple of meetings to help them.
Yeah.
But then
We could
I'm-
have done it on mine. but-
I move that Sarah stays here permanently.
I would love to. I love this board.
Oh, we are not that kind. Well, congratulations to PJ for getting on board, and congratulations to you, so.
I second that.
Are we ready to go already? I think so. Oh, man.
Okay. 2.6 square feet?
So technically, they don't
Yep.
have a 20-square-foot sign, so they would only be permitted the 20 square feet of variable message board if they had a 40-square-foot sign. But since the sign is 32 square feet, they are only allowed, I think, 16. So it's about 6.
And I guess we're back in session too. I didn't call us back in session.
I'm good. We go to the next page?
Yep.
What is this one?
Yep, that's it.
Mr. Chairman, regarding case 7-2019 BZA, I move that we approve and journal our case.
A second.
We have a motion, a second. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin,
Aye.
Mr. Scion.
Aye.
We can go to the next one, and then we'll print those, yeah.
See which one it is.
Yeah, I'll look. I think it's all one word, actually.
Is it one?
I'm looking at the note.
It's one.
We're all residents of Anderson Township. But he had me beat 1970. I've been only since 93. But in my youth, I used to look to the east and say, that's where people would go to camp out.
So you've been here
I'm
since
gonna miss
93?
you. You sure you wanna? She's just gonna sit out in the audience.
Yeah, they need help.
Speak in opposition to appeals.
Literally, I lived in Mount Lookout, and a lot of the people, had cabins up here in the day.
Okay,
You probably walked home in your bare feet, didn't you?
No, that was earlier on, when I lived in Evanston.
Both ways uphill.
Yeah, in the snow.
Are we done? We, Mr. Chairman, you have lost all decorum. Mr. Chair, regarding case 8-2019 BZA, I move that we approve and journal our case.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin,
Aye.
Mr. Scion.
Aye.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
We'll have to do the last, number 11 too, 11.18.
Oh, yeah, you want to do that one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have an amended resolution prepared, if you
Ooh.
guys want to
Sure.
review that now.
Yeah.
That's the way it was in one of the old resolutions,
And if you're going to do it, then after the colon, you should probably have a space before July. Oh, I see. Oh, there you go. Yeah, 20
on the
minutes.
other side of that comma. There you go.
There you go. Okay.
to move down. Are these, from the original?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they are.
So, as A, the slash is S.
As A, this should just be an S instead of a dash.
I guess my question is do we need to restate?
So we were going back and forth on that too. We looked back at one of the old resolutions and it was included, and some they haven't been included. We can leave that up to the board if you want to include these or not, since they are the same as they were when the case was approved.
Well, if there's no impact either way, then I'm just gonna let it be.
Okay.
That's a song.
Amen. This is 11/2000. So you want a motion to approve and journal? Mr. Chair, regarding case 11-2018 BZA, I move that we approve and journal the amended resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin,
Aye.
Mr. Sion.
Aye.
We shouldn't be allowed to have this much fun.
That concludes our session today. Does somebody want to make an motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion, a second, adjourned.